Welcome to a special episode of BunniPhish Crafts. Today I am going to talk about a few year-long craft-alongs I am taking part in. I'll give you some of the information about the craft-alongs, although it will be very brief, and if you are more interested in them, I will leave links below to the Ravelry threads where they're being hosted. And I will tell you a little bit about my plans for them as well as any progress I've made toward them. As it is the end of January, we are 1 month into the year, so I have made progress in a few different places. First up, we will talk about my Make 9 progress for 2020. I have a sock list and I have an other list, and I have made no progress off of the other list, but from the sock list, I have finished the self-striping socks by Cheryl Giles, and by the time I edit this, I will finish the Aquaphobia by Crystal Flanagan. That's an update on my Make 9 progress, so 2 out of 18 in the first month. That's pretty good. I do not expect to finish 2 of them every month. Next up, I am taking part in Crafty Bingo, which is being hosted by Erin of Bling Your String. This craft along is a lot of fun. You can join at any time throughout the year as long as you can come up with 24 goals that you have not already completed. I am going to go through my goal list fairly quickly. I haven't made a ton of progress on this, but it is the beginning of the year, so that's fine. First is finish my barn raising square blanket. I have not finished that at all. That is, all of the squares for that blanket are made. I just have to seam them up. And I plan on doing that during, well, starting to work on that during March, during the March craft along that I'm going to be hosting over on Instagram. Second goal, make 10 dishcloths. Third goal, 5 accessories. Fourth goal is finish 3 bias strips. So I currently have 3 strips that are partially completed for my bias strip blanket. This is a blanket that I'm only putting in yarns that I really like, and for the self-striping strip, I'm putting in a full repeat of the colors when possible, and for the non-self-striping sections, I'm putting in multiples of 5 garter ridges for the colors. My next goal is to make 2 children's garments. So I know that I want to make the little narc hat for my niece, so that is one of them. And then I don't know what the other garment is going to be, but I'm sure another one will come up. After that, I have finished the Bernat blanket, which I actually did on the 23rd of January, so 1 square down. Next is to finish Mur's blanket, which is a mitered square blanket that I could theoretically finish this year if I work diligently on it. My plan for that is, and for most of my modular projects, is to work on them during the All the Small Things Knit Along that I host during the summertime while my children are out of school. I tend to put a lot of progress in then. And also, I don't do a lot of progress on them during the first part of the year because that is when the Zombie Knit Apocalypse make along is, and I don't get points for finishing modular things because they were started before the projects were started before the beginning of the year. Number 8 is knit 5 pairs of non-vanilla, non-cookie A socks. So I have done that. I have finished, let's see, I finished 2 pairs of Scraposaurus socks, a pair of self-striping socks, and by the time this goes up, also Aquaphobia. So that is 4 pair of socks to complete that square, which I'm pretty pleased at knocking that out fairly early. I will be making some vanilla socks coming up here pretty soon, so they won't fit into that category. You know what? I also made, I guess the unicorn tube socks would fit into that category also. Then 3 pair of leg warmers. I have 1 pair started. I have the first of the first pair started, and I have made a little bit of progress, but not very much. I started it at the beginning of the month and then set it aside because on the 3rd or so of January, the January bonus was released for the ZK knit along, and it was for socks. So I set aside the leg warmers and knocked out a bunch of gift socks. So I will get back to that, but the first one has started. Finish the paisley embroidery. I've been working on, though not actively working on, this paisley embroidery for way, way too long, and it doesn't take a ton of time to add a section. I mean, obviously it takes time. All handcraft takes time. But if I focused on this for a month, I could knock it out easily in a month's time without having to put too much effort on it. Again, this is another thing that would be good for summertime because it's super portable, and I'm definitely not going to work on it during the ZK knit along. Make 10 small ornaments. That will likely happen when it is time for the ornament swap, which I will be hosting again this year. Make 2 adult garments. I plan already as part of my Make 9 to do 2 sweaters for myself. One is the Water and Stone by Vera Valimaki, which I already have yarn for, and the second is the Aura Pullover by Heidi May, which I do not already have yarn for. I made myself an Aura Pullover last year, but it was ill-fitting and I ran out of yarn, so I couldn't make it long enough. I couldn't make the neck. Too many things, so I will be making that later. Make 3 pair of Cookie Ace socks. That's pretty self-explanatory. I have one on my Make 9, so I already have one pattern picked out, and then throughout the year I'll figure out what other patterns I'm interested in making. Make 100 flower motifs. So I'm at 1 out of 100, which means I have a long way to go, but that's okay. Spin a monster skein using sample fibers. So I have a bunch of sample fibers, some that I picked up for my son when he was interested in spinning and he just hasn't spun them, some that I've gotten from friends. Haley sent me a few samples in the in our Christmas swap package. I have received fiber samples when I've ordered fiber before, so I have a bunch of little samples. So I'm going to make a monster skein. I'm going to spin all of them into singles and then ply them however. I want to knit 5 pairs of kids Christmas socks, so I have one of those down, which is the unicorn tube socks that I made for my daughter. I need to look through my stash, see what other commercial yarns I have and which child I want to gift those commercial socks, commercial skeins of yarn. When I first started making the children hand knit socks, I totally used some of my indie dyed yarn, and now I just don't want to because while they love the socks that I make them, they also don't, hand wash their socks and things like that. So I will keep the lovely indie dyed things for myself and use commercial for them. I want to make 50 hexapuffs. I have made half of one hexapuff, so that's not going great, but it's okay. I'll get there. Hexapuffs are actually really quick and easy to make. They'll probably wait until summertime when I go, you know, gung-ho about working on all the modular things. I want to finish my mitered blanket this year, my mitered square blanket. I am pretty close. Pretty sure I have less than 200 squares to go. I don't know the exact number right this minute, but less than 200 squares, 25 of which have to wait until December because they will be made using minis from Haley, but the remainder of the squares and the sashing can be started well before December. I want to make and donate 12 charity items. So the thing is, I'm pretty good about making charity items, but the donating part gets me. So I want to make and donate 12 things to give away. I don't know what those 12 things will be yet. I don't really have a plan. I just know it's a thing I want to do. I want to publish 5 designs. I have several that are in various states of finished, so I just need to keep working on them. I want to finish the spin for my sister. I want to make 4 pairs of scrappy socks, and my plan was there is a scrappy sock knit along hosted by Exterminate on Instagram. I think it's called the Get Scrappy 2020. If that is incorrect, I will tell you so on the screen. And there are quarterly challenges. My plan was to make one a quarter, and then this month I've just made so many scrappy pairs of socks. So many. I've made 2 pair of scrappy socks, and I am working on, as we're speaking right this second, I am knitting on a 3rd sock that is made using leftovers from those scrappy socks. I would like to finish one big Christmas ornament. My plan for that is to finish the elf ornament that I am making based off of the patterns by Lally Lala. So I'm taking the Rocco the Raccoon pattern and using that pattern for the elf's head and body and arms and legs and all of that. Just the using the numbers and modifying it to make an elf. I would like to finish that by the end of the year. I wanted to have it finished for this past holiday season, and I did not accomplish that. The last square is to make the chain reaction Afghan by the Interweave Crochet team. This Afghan has been in my queue forever, and I just really want to make a giant crochet Afghan. I am also participating in the Make 20 in 20 craft along that Lisa at Vibra is hosting. I do not know if you can still sign up to be a part of this because everything for the first quarter is locked. So I don't know if you can still join it, but I'll let you know what my plans are. I am participating in 3 categories. The first one is patterns. So my pattern plans are my 18 patterns for the Make 9 in 2020. Self-striping socks by Cheryl Giles, Aquaphobia socks by Crystal Flanagan, Torrent by Tin Can Knits, Three-Legged Race by Megan Williams, Hyperbolic Hexagon Socks by H. Lurie, Cold as Ice by Lisa K. Ross, My Vampire Boyfriend by Kate Atherley, Stellan by Kino Knits, Pointel by Cookie A, Water and Stone by Vera Valimaki, Chain Reaction Afghan Project by Interweave Crochet, Orthogonal by Lee Meredith, Tree Garland by Linda Perman, Turn a Square by Jared Flood, Little Narcat by Stephanie Lotvin, Filigree Slouch Hat by Woolly Wormhead, Naughty Gloves by Julia Mueller, and Aura Pullover by Heidi May. In addition to that, I knew I was going to make Scraposaurus socks by myself, or the pattern is by me, rather. So I put that on the list, and then Baby's Diamond Legs by Lisa K. Ross because I knew I was going to start that pattern for leg warmers. The other 2 categories that I am participating in, I do not have exhausted lists because they're supposed to be 20 items long, but you could just start a list and add to it. There is a week or 2 weeks, I can't remember, at the end of the first quarter where you can edit and update things, and then the same at the second and third quarters. So the second one is stash yarns that I would like to work through. So the first one is Cozy Knitter 2018 and 19 Advent yarns. Number 2, Knit Picks Stroll Glimmer and Blush. That is what I am using for the baby's diamond legs. Number 3, Knit Picks Stroll Glimmer and Sapphire Heather, which will be another pair of leg warmers. Number 4, Marigold Gen BFL and Kaleidoscope. I used that for the Aquaphobia socks. Number 5, Marigold Gen in Copper Patina. I'm going to use that to make the knotty gloves. Number 6, 716 Knit 716 Knot in Slayer Pride Parade. Number 7, Humble Bumble Fiber Co. in Be Gay Do Crimes. Number 8, Plymouth Yarns Sweater Quantity of yarn. So I have a sweater quantity, duh, of yarn that I'm going to be using for the Water and Stone. Number 9, Queen City Yarns Trio. That is a trio of yarn that I received in last year's ZK goodie bag. I don't know what I want to make with that yet, but I have a couple ideas that that I am currently thinking I'm going to choose from. Number 10, Black Cat Fibers Melancholia. I have an idea for that, but I don't know if it will come to fruition, so I'm not going to tell you what it is. Number 11, Northern Bee Studios in Northwoods. I think I'm going to make myself a tri-tine out of that because I currently don't have that in my hat collection. It's my pattern and it's a beautiful green color, so I think that will be perfect. Lion Brand Mani Petty and Crew. That's already used up. I used it to make the unicorn tube socks. Lion Brand Mani Petty in Boot. I will either be using that to make shorty socks for my sister or socks for my niece. Cascade Heritage Prints in 46. I was thinking I was going to use that for my boyfriend, but now I think that I might use it for one of the boys. Number 15, Lunabud Knits in TARDIS. I'm thinking I'm going to use that for the Turn a Square hat, although I'm not 100% positive on that. Number 16, Knit Picks Muse in Savvy. And then I don't have numbers 17 through 20 picked out. I will figure that out at the end of the first quarter. The last category that I am tentatively going to join in, although I don't think I'm actually going to accomplish 20, but maybe, is stash fiber. So you are allowed to bring in 5 whips in any given category. This is the only one that I brought whips into. So number 1 is a whip. That's for Mandy's fiber, my sister, the spinning project I was going to do, or that I am going to do for her. Number 2 is the Frost Yarn Bat. I just have to ply it, but that's still spinning time, so it counts. Number 3 is another whip that is Deviant Fibers, and I've just barely started spinning that, and I've stolen the spindle from that for a non-stash project of spinning. The other fibers that I would like to use are a 716 bat, a braid from Zany Crafts, 716 scuttlebutts, a braid from Direful Yarns, some batlings or little knots of fiber from Naturally Knitty, and number 9 is my fiber samples. So that's not likely to be a completed list by the end of the year, but I do have these 9 that I would really, really like to work on. And maybe the spinning bug will get me and I will spin a bunch. It doesn't seem likely, but it's possible. I'm also taking part in the Stash Busters 2020 make-along that Kay from the Crazy Sock Lady is hosting with another podcaster whose name I can't remember because I don't watch that podcast. And for that, the only real rule is that you knit or crochet something using stash from before 2020, and the entire project has to be made out of stash yarn. So far this month, all of my projects have been made out of stash yarn only. I have the 2 pairs of Scraposaurus socks, the Aquaphobia, the self-striping socks, the unicorn tube socks, and the Bernat blanket. I also finished a pair of shorty socks, and I finished a pair of fingerless mitts out of one ball of stash yarn. All of that was 100% stash, so all of that counted. So the way that I'm counting my stash for like skeins in, skeins out is any project that uses a full skein, that skein is then counted out of stash. Obviously, purchasing new skeins counts as stash in, but the leftovers from the project count as skeins into my mini skein stash because that's a whole separate thing. So for January, I have one full skein in. I purchased a skein of yarn because I want to remake a sample of one of my shawls. I think I only have one shawl design. It's a fingering weight pattern. I want to make it in DK. So I have one skein of DK. I'm going to need more in the future, but I didn't want to purchase without knowing how much I was going to need. So one skein at a time for that. For full skeins out, I have 10. So 1 to 10, pretty good ratio. And then for mini skeins, I completely used up 5 mini skeins. But I bought 4 mini skeins from a trunk show at my yarn shop, and I have an additional 5 mini skeins left over from projects that came in. So 9 in, 5 out. That's not a terrible ratio. And my out number for mini skeins is going to be huge in the summer. I would like, as always, as every year, to work a bunch of stash out and then just pick up a little bit at fiber festivals or big box stores as needed, but I don't really need a ton of yarn to come in. So I feel pretty pleased with that progress. So those are the year-long make-alongs that I will be updating you on hopefully every month. Are you participating in any of these? None of these? Are there others that I should know about? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you for a regularly scheduled podcast in a few days. Bye.